rediscovering love through betrayal. I caught my cheating wife having coffee with her boyfriend, but then she did this. It was a regular Wednesday afternoon when everything changed. I had taken an early day off from work, planning to surprise my wife with lunch at her favorite cafe. But instead of joy, I was greeted by a sight that shattered me. As I stepped into the cafe, there she was, sitting at a corner table, laughing softly across from a man I didn't recognize. It wasn't just their conversation or their body language, it was the way she smiled, a smile I hadn't seen directed at me in months. I froze, my heart racing, my palms sweating. For a moment I thought I must be imagining things. But the longer I stood there, unnoticed, the more real it became. Every fiber of my being wanted to rush over to confront her, to demand answers. Who was he? What was she doing here with him? But something held me back, so I turned and walked out, the image of them etched into my mind like a scar. That evening, as I sat waiting for her to come home, I wrestled with every emotion imaginable: anger, betrayal, sadness, confusion. By the time she walked through the door, I had made a decision. I wasn't going to yell or accuse, instead I was going to talk, I was going to listen. When she walked in, I asked her how her day had been. She looked surprised at the question, but quickly responded with vague details about errands and catching up with a friend. That was my moment. I gently asked her about the cafe. Her face changed instantly, her smile fading, replaced by something I couldn't quite read: guilt, maybe even fear. Tears welled up in her eyes as she confessed. Yes, she had been meeting someone, but it wasn't what I thought. She wasn't in love with him, she said. He wasn't replacing me. Her words cut deeper than I expected. She told me that she felt like we had become strangers in our own home, like roommates rather than partners. She missed the connection we used to have, the small acts of love that once defined our relationship. As much as her words hurt, they also forced me to confront my own failures. I had been so focused on work, on providing financially, that I had stopped paying attention to her emotional needs. I had taken our marriage for granted, assuming that love didn't need maintenance. We sat together that night, talking in a way we hadn't in years. We both cried, both admitted our faults. It wasn't an easy conversation. It was raw, uncomfortable, and filled with pain. The next few weeks were some of the hardest of my life. We decided to seek counseling to try and rebuild what we had broken. But there were also moments of clarity, of growth, of rediscovery. I learned to show up for her in ways I hadn't before, not just through grand gestures, but through the small, consistent acts of love, asking about her day, truly listening, surprising her with things that reminded her she was cherished. And she did the same for me. Our marriage wasn't just saved, it was transformed. What had once felt like an unbreakable bond had been tested, cracked, and mended stronger than before. We learned that love isn't something you find and hold on to. It's something you create, nurture, and fight for every day. Today I look back on that moment not with anger but with gratitude. It was a turning point, a painful lesson that taught us both the value of communication, effort, and forgiveness. It reminded us that no relationship is perfect, but with honesty and commitment, even the deepest wounds can heal. Sometimes life breaks you so it can rebuild you into something stronger. For us, that moment of brokenness became the foundation for a better, more loving future. And that, I realized, was the true power of love. Not its perfection, but its resilience.